So in this quick tutorial, I'll just show you how we can use AWS CodeBuild with our Ruby on Rails application. I will show you how we go from A to B. I have created a Rails application, a simple one, a CRUD system, where it allows you to add a student's name and view it in the list. So we've got a basic CRUD system for students. So let's go to Visual Studios. So here it is, simple aspect capybara test. So visit the student's new page, the new form, we add a name, create it, and we should see a successful message on the page. Now with CodeBuild, there is one important file, and that is the build spec. With the build spec, it basically allows us to tell CodeBuild how to build itself basically, and what tests to run. So there's many phases, but the main ones that we are concerned with right now are these ones. So install, pre-build, and build. So install, just going to install the environment and the packages that we need for our application. Pre-build, we're just going to run a few commands that we need basically before we actually run the tests. So here we've got creating the database and running the migrations, and then finally we run the basic test that I showed you earlier. Alright, so once we've got this all set up, we've got the build spec, and we've got our basic tests. So let's just run it locally to see that it's working. So our spec. Great, it's working. We've got a pass, and what we do now is we create a code build. So we come over here, we create our first project, and we call it students, and we'll be testing the master branch. So we'll call it students master branch, and we'll be giving it a badge. Come down here. So our application is in code commit, so we'll click that, and we want to test master. So we'll be using the AWS managed image. You can specify your own if you want, but we'll just use the AWS. Use Amazon Linux 2, runtime standard. One. There's other additional settings that we can give it, such as timeouts. We can give it any time between 5 minutes and 8 hours, and so it doesn't. So if we don't want it to run too long, then it just cuts it off. And other times, queue out timeout. Also certificates, if you've got SSL certificates on your build, and a build spec file like I showed you earlier, and we're not going to save any artifacts, and we want it to save on CloudWatch. Okay, that sounds good. So let's create it. Great, so that's been created. So that was basically just the general settings. Now we'll have to make start a build basically. So we'll start a build using that settings, and everything seems to be good, and we will run it. So what this is doing now is it's spinning up a Docker container and installing the things that we specified in this build spec. So here it would get the Ruby image that comes with all its dependencies, and then install the gems that we've got in our application. Also installs bundler and so on. So yeah, so it runs everything in the Docker container. Once the build succeeds, that Docker container would be destroyed. And it is going to go through plenty of phases. So here are all the phases that happen. It tells you how long it takes to do each phase. So it's running the install, the pre-build now. And it's been completed, and it's been a successful build. So our application has passed and has been successful. So now what we can do is we can actually test to see when it's not successful, what happens then. We'll say error there, and we'll push our change. Okay, so now when we run our RSpec tests, it should fail. The question is, what will happen in AWS CodeBuild when we try to build it now with a broken test? And it's failed like I thought it would. So if we scroll down and see if it tells us any details, so it shows us that it's failed. And if we look up here, it shows us that it has failed, and the reasoning was that it couldn't find error in students who were successfully created. So that's great. You can also have a look in CloudWatch as well. So in CloudWatch, we should be able to see a log of that AWS CodeBuild that we just ran. And we called it student master. And the latest one was this one. And here it is. So it shows us that it's failed and it can't find error. Well, there you go. That is AWS CodeBuild. Allows you to build your application in a Docker container, and then runs your tests and tears everything down afterwards. Alright, thank you for watching my video. I hope you have a good day.